So my mom woke me up this morning to show me a news article that my brother had sent to her. My ex, Jayvon Givan, was found hanging in a tree in the woods in Albuquerque, New Mexico. Not even a month after covering the Trey Reed story, another black man has been found hanging from a tree. And this time I actually knew him. Like, this is actually so insane to me. And do you know what they're saying? They are ruling this a suicide. They found another black person hanging in the woods, hanging from a tree. And they're saying he did it to himself. Are you fucking kidding me? Like, I honestly don't even know how to feel right now. And I don't know what was going on in his life at the time. But if one thing's for certain, two things are for sure. He did not hang himself in the fucking woods. And as morbid as it sounds, we actually used to talk about shit like this when we were together. And if you actually knew him at any point, at any time in his life, you would know him, just like every other black person in America, would never choose to be hanged from a tree. And do I believe that the police did their job at any point during this investigation? Absolutely not. Just like they never do. So just like Trey Reed in Mississippi, they are trying to sweep this under the rug, but I'm not going to let them. And I don't know how censored or how many TikTok words I will use to replace the actual language. So I don't know if this is actually going to get suppressed or if it will get out there. And if you feel the urge to get in my comments with your condescending, patronizing bullshit, I urge you to keep scrolling and have the day that you fucking deserve. You can keep your fake sorries and your lack of empathy and move the fuck around. Like, do y'all honestly believe in your heart of hearts that it is common practice for black Americans to hang themselves in trees when it is y'all history of hanging and lynching that this country is so desperate to erase? So let me be as clear as I can. If you are silent, you are complicit. If you are patronizing, you are complicit. If you see the racial climate in dumps America and still fix your lips to give fake condolences for a cover-up, you are complicit. And you're one of the worst type of human beings. And I haven't seen this story on my For You page or on TikTok at all. So if you could please spread the word about this, that would be greatly appreciated. So like, share, repost, make your own video if you want, because regardless of my past with him, I'm going to say his name and I'm going to make sure you guys say it too. Jayvon Givan did not unalive himself. This country has claimed another black life because your dictator has made this climate in which these racist pieces of shit can feel superior, justified, and safe in committing these crimes. Because who cares about black bodies, right? Wake the fuck up. Because y'all have always done this, and it has always been us. To the people who are trying to get this story out by whatever means, thank you. Because like I said, TikTok is probably going to suppress this video. But we don't want stories like this being buried. And to all my fellow black people, people of color, and allies alike, I love you, be safe, be ready, and we'll see you in the next one.
Well, KOT has been bombarded with emails and calls all weekend about what some claim was a lynching, but police say it was a suicide and nothing else.
Faithy Buono spoke with a journalism professor from UNM who says situations like this are why it's important to know where you're getting your information.
It has been 1 year since Jayvon Givan died. The Albuquerque Police Department ruling his death as a suicide September 2024.
They did find the man hanging by a chain from basically a pillar of a wall that was outside of a business that was closed for renovations. So it wasn't a tree, there wasn't a forest or anything like that.
According to the police report, officers responding to calls of, quote, a male who was found hanging in front of a vacant business by an employee in Northwest Albuquerque.
A year later, fast forward to right now, October 1st, this gentleman's sister called us from Kansas City to report that she had not heard from her brother in over a year, which tracks with about the same time last year. She said that last she heard from him, he was traveling through the United States backpacking, and he had last called from Albuquerque. He mentioned that he had been in some sort of trouble but didn't explain it. but she never heard from him again.
His sister describing him to police as an African-American male, approximately 140 pounds, with black hair and brown eyes.
So she had officers report him as missing, which they did. Those officers turned it over to the dispatcher, turned it over to the missing persons unit this, I think, on Friday. And our detective at the missing persons unit looked up his name, found that there was a report from last year from that death that was ruled a suicide.
Given stories sparking outrage 1 year later, from social media to planned protest.
A student texted me about this yesterday.
UNM professor of journalism Gwyneth Dolan weighing in on the implications of misinformation.
I did a quick search and I said, this sounds really shocking, and that makes me suspicious. I told him, if this were real, you bet our news outlets would report on this. You would see this on KOAT if this were real. I advised him to send a tip to the newsroom and see if they followed up, and it sounds like a lot of people did that already.
Dolan underscoring the benefits and the dangers of information on social media.
Social media is a tool for connection for many of us, but it's also a tool that people use to stir up anger and divide us. And it's really hard sometimes to tell whether something is a legitimate injustice or misinformation, an accident, or something intentionally designed to disrupt our democracy.
Dolan informing all to take a pause first.
Navigate away from where you are. Google it and look for a source that you know and trust.
Faith Imwanu, KOAT, Action, 7 News.
We are aware of photos circulating of Givan online, but we chose not to post until confirmed if it's indeed him.
This is a cover-up. Family of Jayvon Givan demands answers after Black Kansas City. Man found hanged in New Mexico. Originally from the Kansas City area, Jayvon Givan was found hanged in New Mexico. Police hid his death for over a year, cremated his body before even notifying his family of his death, and called it suicide. His family is demanding a full investigation and justice for Jayvon. On September 17, 2024, Jayvon Maurice Givan was found hanging by a metal chain from a commercial building in Corrales, New Mexico. He was 29 years old. The Albuquerque Police Department ruled his death a suicide and cremated his body before his family even knew he was dead. For 384 days, no one told his family what happened. It wasn't until October 1st, 2025, over a year after Jayvon's death, that his cousin Jada Walker from Kansas City filed a missing persons report in Albuquerque and discovered the police had been sitting on his case file the entire time. Virtually no investigation, no autopsy to the family's knowledge, no notification, just a 2-page incident report classifying a Black man found hanged in public as suicide and a body turned to ash before anyone who loved him could say goodbye. That is not negligence, and it's not a rumor like we've heard people online say. This is a cover-up. Organizers from Building Power for Black New Mexico, Millions for Prisoners New Mexico, Albuquerque, Save the Kids, and the Southwest Solidarity Network told the defender in a statement ahead of an emergency press conference on October 6, 2025. The defender has obtained the full police reports, and what they reveal is a department that never intended to investigate Jayvon Givan's death. Jay loved life. He was not suicidal. Jada told the defender she grew up with Jayvon and they even lived together at many points. She told the defender the last time her family heard from him was August 28, 2024, 20 days before police say he died. He reached out to everybody for money on the same day, Walker told the defender by phone. More than 20 people said that Jayvon contacted them on August 28, 2024. Everybody said the same thing. It seemed like he was running from something. Jayvon had moved to Albuquerque just weeks earlier on August 10th, looking for a fresh start after the death of their grandmother in 2020. He was staying at the St. Elizabeth shelter, had gotten jobs at Dollar Tree and a gas station, and was rebuilding his life. Walker says he even had a girlfriend who was pregnant. When I say he loved life, Walker said. her voice firm with certainty. That is not a suicidal person. Nothing about him comes across suicidal. It's raising red flags with all our family members because we know who he is. The police never asked the family about Jayvon's state of mind. They never asked about the frantic calls for money on August 28th. They never asked why a man who loved life would hang himself in public 20 days later. They just closed the case. What the police reports reveal and conceal the Albuquerque Police Department's incident report number 240076648, obtained by the defender, tells a story of bureaucratic indifference masquerading as investigation. According to the primary report filed by Officer Homero Alvidrez on September 17, 2024, an employee at 10,200 Corrales Road Northwest called 911 at 10:09 a.m. after discovering Jayvon's body hanging in front of the listed property. The synopsis states, the listed male was found deceased in front of the listed property by an employee who works at the property. Was found to have committed suicide by hanging himself, the narrative continues. The male was found to have been hanging for a few hours. AFD Rescue also responded to the location and did not attempt life-saving measures since Jayvon was beyond help. Officer Alvidrez notes that a crime scene investigator, along with an investigator with the Office of the Medical Investigator, OMI, responded and examined Jayvon and the scene, the Field Investigator Supplement, filed 3 days later by Officer Janie Miller, provides slightly more detail. Miller describes Jayvon as fully clothed to include shoes and notes. He had used a metal chain with a carabiner to hang himself. The carabiner was attached to an eye hook that was already in place on the top of the pillar. Miller's report states that the OMI investigator pronounced time of death at 11:24 hours and that OMI later transported Jayvon to their facility until a kin was located for Jayvon, but no kin was located, or rather, no kin was sought. The reports make no mention of any attempt to contact Jayvon's family in Kansas City. The only person listed in the relationships addendum is Martin Ulloa, whose relationship to Jayvon is marked unknown. Walker says the detective who finally called her family on October 1st, Detective Lorenzo Apicata, provided almost no information and then refused to return their calls. He asked us for the correct spelling of Jayvon's name. I guess they had him under a JVR. The middle name was misspelled, Walker recounted. Then he told us that somebody would be contacting us. A detective called about 2 hours later and gave us the bad news. When the family asked basic questions, was there an autopsy? What evidence was collected? Can we see photos to identify him? The detective was evasive. He just said that his body was cremated and that we could get the police report online, Walker said. He never gave us any details. He never said, hey, I'm going to be sending you over some photos so you can identify him. My cousin was literally identified from the name, only name, and birthday. Walker tried calling back. We have left multiple voicemails. He just won't return. This department concealed the lynching of a black man in light of Jayvon's horrifying death. Organizing groups pulling together Monday's emergency press conference did not mince words in a statement to the defender. This department concealed the lynching of a black man for over a year and had the audacity to label it a suicide. We reject that narrative outright, the statement reads. Black people do not hang themselves in public in America. We know this because the history is written in blood. From Reconstruction to Jim Crow to right now, police and coroners have covered up racial terror by calling it self-inflicted. These are not isolated incidents. They are continuations of state-sanctioned violence. The groups point to a disturbing national pattern. Across the country, multiple Black men have been found dead by hanging in recent weeks. Each case quickly ruled a suicide before any meaningful investigation took place. Just weeks before Jayvon's case came to light, Demartravian Trey Reed, a Black student at Delta State University in Cleveland, Mississippi, was found hanged. Authorities there also quickly ruled it a suicide despite questions from his community. This sophisticated machinery of racial terror is just a fascist strategy that relies on overwhelming force from multiple directions, including misinformation, intimidation, and threats. Terry Wilson, the founder of the Idaho chapter of the Black Lives Matter grassroots chapter, told the Chicago Crusader in a statement about the Trey Reed case, "I think we're witnessing a coordinated campaign of disappearances, lynchings, and state-sanctioned killings that target Black, brown, and indigenous communities." He continued, "We need to address this method of lynchings by suicide, which is their way to rationalize, from a medical standpoint, their feelings. I think this is sort of a death rattle for white supremacy because they're relying on almost every structural institution in order to justify or cover up the actions of folks. The organizers on the ground in Albuquerque's demands are clear and uncompromising. An immediate independent investigation into the death of Jayvon Givan, full public release of all evidence, photos, and body camera footage related to the case. Accountability for every officer and official who concealed, delayed, or distorted the facts. A public acknowledgement from city and state leadership that anti-Black violence is alive in New Mexico, and that silence is complicity. At best, this police department is grossly incompetent, they told the defender in a statement. At worst, it has participated in covering up a modern-day lynching. Either way, we will not stand down. The evidence APD won't release to the public. According to the police reports, critical evidence exists that has never been made public. 39 photographs taken at the scene and held as evidence, a journal found with Jayvon's body, contents unknown, body camera footage from Officer Alvarez, confirmed in the report as, yes, video footage available, evidence.com, oh my examination notes that have not been released. The field investigator report notes that Officer A. Torres collected metal chain/carabiner and a journal and pair of eyeglasses as evidence. All of these items remain in police custody. The OMI investigator also uploaded 39 photographs into evidence.com. Why has none of this evidence been made public? What is in that journal? What do those 39 photos show? What did the body camera capture? When the defender asked Walker if she had been able to access any of this evidence, she said, "The family has been stonewalled at every turn. A police department with a history of racist brutality. The Albuquerque Police Department has a well-documented history of vicious brutality, cover-ups, and constitutional violations. In 2014, the U.S. Department of Justice found a pattern of unconstitutional use of deadly force by APD officers. The city entered into a consent decree requiring reforms that are ongoing more than a decade later. This case reveals how that culture of impunity extends to death investigations. When a Black man is found hanged, the default assumption is suicide. The investigation, if you can even call it that, seems designed to confirm that assumption, not test it. No interviews with shelter staff who saw Jayvon in his final weeks. No canvassing of the commercial area where he was found. No analysis of his phone records or financial transactions in those crucial 20 days between August 28th and September 17th. No outreach to family members who might provide context about his mental state or any threats he faced. Just a classification, a cremation, and a case filed away. The officer's report even misspelled Jayvon's middle name, a detail so fundamental that its error speaks to the level of care applied to this investigation. They couldn't even get his name right before they burned his body. I want justice for my cousin. For Jada Walker and Jayvon's family, the cremation feels like a final violation. The destruction of evidence, the elimination of any possibility that an independent pathologist might examine his body and reach a different conclusion. We were really upset that there wasn't an autopsy done or anything in that nature, Walker said. She is clear about what she wants now. I don't care who's uncomfortable. I don't care. I want justice for my cousin. Walker says Jayvon's biological sister is also standing with her demanding answers. Other family members are joining the call for an independent investigation. We know he did not do that, Walker said, speaking for the family's collective certainty. And we were really upset that it wasn't an autopsy done. What happens next? At 6 p.m. on Monday, October 6, 2025, organizers will gather outside the Albuquerque Police Department headquarters at 400 Roma Ave Northwest to demand accountability. The press conference, convened by Building Power for Black New Mexico, Millions for Prisoners New Mexico, Albuquerque Save the Kids, and the Southwest Solidarity Network, will call for an immediate independent investigation. Jayvon's life mattered. His family deserves truth. And Black New Mexico will not rest until justice is done. The organizer's statement concludes, the family is holding a balloon release send-off in honor of Jayvon's life on October 11, 2025. The defender will continue investigating this case and pushing for the release of all evidence. We will not let Jayvon Givan become another name buried in a closed case file, another Black man whose suspicious death is explained away as suicide by a police department with no interest in the truth. If you have information about Jayvon Givan's time in Albuquerque, his activities in August and September 2024, or any interactions he had with Albuquerque police, please contact me at ryan@kansascitydefender.com. This is a developing story. The Defender will update as new information becomes available from tonight's press conference and ongoing investigation.